Love and peace to you. This is a verbal discourse on our Welt Ethos. My name is Peter Johansson Osisi, and I work with Arason Ashram. So, this is an introduction to some teachings from Islam and the Quran regarding the principle of shu, the fifth principle, numero cinco, of our Welt Ethos. So, throughout the Quran, there are a plethora of teachings regarding the responsibility of righteousness, being compassionate, providing kindness to others, and the intrinsic equality and egalitarianism that exists amongst all individuals. And this is part of one's obligation in abiding by the most merciful and most benevolent Allah, the will of Allah. And so, thus, the principle of shu intrinsically exists and is evidenced and communicated and commanded throughout the Quran, throughout the many different teachings of compassion and righteousness, from zakat and psalm and even salat, prayer, meditation, and prayer, fasting, and charity. Salat, prayer, zakat, charity, psalm, fasting. All of these are part of the process of overcoming ourselves, overcoming our selfish tendencies, recognizing something greater than ourselves, and recognizing how that greatness, that holiness, provides for all individuals around us, and thus the intrinsic merit that exists within all individuals around us, just as it exists within ourselves. And so that intrinsically is shu, that is reciprocity. That is the golden rule. We are to approach others with that respect and acknowledgement. As I say, there are many different renderings of this throughout the Quran. One consideration that may be considered somewhat of an advanced consideration of shu is the intrinsic obligation that the Quran describes in approaching others, and how we have the obligation of being righteous and compassionate towards each other, but we are also only responsible for our own actions, and rather than attempting to dominate and compel others, it's simply a matter of recognizing that we are only responsible for our own actions, and others are responsible for the actions of others. And so there's kind of like a detached reciprocity, meaning that it's unnecessary for us to assume the responsibilities of others. There's an integrity that exists within each of ourselves, and within that integrity, there is reciprocity. The reciprocity of abstaining from imposing. So this is essentially summed up in Surah Yunus, 10:41, Surah 10:41, verse 41. And if they reject thee, say, my work is for me, and your work for you. You are clear of what I do, and I am clear of what you do. And that is Surah Yunus, 10:41, Surah 10, verse 41. So again, like I say, it's like a reverse reciprocity, whereby instead of engaging the other, it's a matter of providing space for the other. And in that space, there is coexistence, there is harmony. There's an absence of imposition and compulsion. The Quran teaches, let there be no compulsion in religion, meaning that faith is something that an individual practices from one's own volition. It's something that can't be enforced upon anyone. And so this is an articulation of that. So through that respect and space, there is reciprocity. There is space for each of us to engage within our respective endeavors and reap the consequences accordingly, favorable or unfavorable. So again, that being said, we also have that can be considered the obligation to disengage, which can be just as important as engaging. But there's also the responsibility to engage, to provide when somebody's in need, to provide for those needs, amidst those needs, to quell those needs, and in doing so, to abstain from imposing subordination or obligation or undue subjugation to the individuals when the individuals receive such need or receive such assistance. We are to give generously, without strings, without expectation. We give simply because we are supposed to give. We have the responsibility in giving. And so this is conveyed within Surah Al-Baqarah 262, Surah 2, verse 262. Those who spend with their wealth in the way of Allah, then follow not up what they have spent with reproach or injury, their reward is with their Lord, and they shall have no fear, nor shall they grieve. Now again, that's Surah Al-Baqarah 262, chapter 2, Surah 2, verse 262. So those are some of the renderings of shu throughout the Quran. And in terms of an explicit articulation of shu, as it's commonly evidenced or observed within additional traditions, it's difficult to evidence within the Quran directly. But there is a hadith that directly articulates this principle of shu, as in a manner that people are contemporarily accustomed to seeing. And this is in Hadith Bukhari 13, number 13. None of you will believe until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. So that's rather a direct articulation of shu. So these are some teachings within Islam regarding the principle of shu, the fifth principle, numero 5, of our Welt ethos. Alhamdulillah.